I was married to an individual, but we had not been together in many years. We weren't technically married, but we were still legally married. And this individual realized that she was pregnant, and the individual had sort of hid the fact that she was pregnant, and the individual was apparently on a lot of drugs, and she polluted a child in the womb. And so CPS got involved.
Okay, we're back. This is Attorney Vincent Davis. I'm in here with my guest host, Aaron Carranza, and we're going to take another call. We have Ronald back from California. Ronald, are you back?
Yes, I'm back.
Okay, great. We had a call drop there, I think. So go ahead and tell your story.
So CPS I have a very interesting story, and this will be one of the most. Anyways, this is something interesting. I was married to an individual, but we had not been together in many years. We weren't technically married, but we were still legally married. And this individual realized that she was pregnant, and the individual had sort of hid the fact that she was pregnant, and the individual was apparently on a lot of drugs, and she polluted a child in the womb. And so CPS got involved, and immediately at the hospital. And it got, because I was technically married to the individual, and I'm in a state where the UPA, pretty much all the 50 states have adopted more or less derivation of the UPA. So I'm in a state where the UPA governs, and they were going to use a LabCorp paternity test to determine whether I was the father, because I had explained that I didn't sleep with the individual, so I couldn't be the father. Anyways, shouldn't be a big deal. So I get a phone call from a judge who's sitting next to a lawyer in a courtroom and asked me to call this individual for the limited purposes of a paternity test, a legal DNA paternity test. And this was involving a female child. And why that's relevant, you'll understand in a second. So, sure, I'll sit for a paternity test if there's a child who's, been affected with some drugs, and I didn't really understand what was going on. But, given that this individual had been arrested and there was a $5 million bail, it was a pretty big deal. I felt like, I should comply with whatever I'm being asked to do. Well, most people believe, in fact, the statute requires that, people be tested and it's a real test. Well, I looked at this test because what was disturbing was the test comes back and it said I was the father. Well, wasn't possible. So I looked at the test a little bit more. And the test is misstating both science and mathematics. In a real legal DNA, test, the ones that are done in criminal courts, and the ones that are done in academia, and the ones that you talked about, when they're testing the autosomal chromosome. And the only way to do paternity testing with the autosomal chromosome is by testing the mother. They're not testing the mother. What's really happening is that every male who gets into a LabCorp or EDC, which are the two labs that CPS works with, and this is also controlled at the hospital level. This is the same with the tests sold at CVS, the drugstores, all of them. None of them use the mother. They are all fake. And I had a very interesting, anyway, they're just not real. I also discovered that the grandparent tests are not real. Not real. and have not been real since, in most states, since 1982.
So I'm not really tracking. Were you asking me a question?
I wanted to share a story.
Oh, that was it?
Were you aware that they're not real?
I was not aware of it, and I've never heard of it. I've looked at DNA tests before that have done, and they've always been scientifically, performed.
Well, no, they claim that they're scientifically performed, but in biology, there is no possible way to test a child's DNA without testing the mother. So when I looked into this, I looked at it very seriously. This involved about 10,000 hours. And what I discovered was that they were systematically not testing the mother. What's really happening is that the men who go into testing are just holding up their licenses, and what they're doing is they're pulling what's called Y DNA. Y DNA is only found in men. There's only 4 chromosomal locations. You have X, which is in both men and women, Y, which is in only men, autosomal, which is in both men and women, and finally you have mitochondrial, which is only tracks the maternal lineage. So with those 4 locations, that's the whole world of DNA. And in those 4 locations, there's only one that works for both male and female children. And that's the only chromosomal location you can test, even theoretically or realistically, to get any sort of real results. And the results have to be 99.99%. These results that they're doing, they're zero. What's happening is men are going into a LabCorp, holding up their license and pulling Y DNA from them. It's a specimen collection where they're simply identifying themselves, and now they have Y DNA to associate with themselves. They're taking a picture and then put it into a database. That database is part of a contract that LabCorp owns. LabCorp benefits from the sex crimes division contracts. The sex crimes division contracts pull Y DNA from men when there's a sex crime. They've already identified themselves, and that's all it is.
Well, are you saying that it's an invalid DNA test?
Yes.
Now, I'm not a scientist on DNA, but when you say this, do you have qualifications to make this statement?
I have 10,000 hours in this, and I also have put this into suit, and I have an admission from the industry, from an industry lawyer, and I know what I found.
Okay. Well,
so you can, in other words, if you go to what you won't find this is you need to go behind the paywall. It's like the Wiley online libraries, and look up, DNA profiling. You can go to any anything like that, anything that's real. You're going to pay $49 an article. Also go to Amazon.com and buy a book called Relationship Testing 1.0, which is written by Richard Walker, who is on the board of directors of the AABB, and I know you know who they are. Right.
So hold on a second. Hold on a second, because hold on. We're moving to our next commercial. I need you to call me tomorrow and leave a message so that we can hook up on the phone on Monday or Tuesday. Would you do that?
Yeah.
Okay. 888-888-6582. Call me tomorrow. Make an appointment to talk to me on Monday, because I really want to get into this, and maybe in a few weeks we can have you back and you can explain some more of this to our audience. This is The Secret, How to Fight Child Protective Services and Win. We'll be back with more calls, more stories, and more questions right after these messages.